This is a $100,000 real pet shark tank. You literally have to feed them chunks of meat, and I'm gonna show you how people care for pets like this, along with tons of other prices of aquatic pets, all the way down to a literal $1 pet axolotl.
Yup, I just found this listing for $1 axolotl. But if you didn't know, axolotls usually cost a lot more than $1, so I'm like worried, is this thing gonna be in bad condition or something? I don't know, but let's go investigate.
So I drove to the seller's house, which thankfully wasn't too far. When I got there, he said he didn't want to be on camera, but he showed me the axolotl tank, and he told me why they were only $1. Apparently his pet axolotl had way too many babies, and inside of this tank was one of the last babies he hadn't sold yet. So I quickly scooped it up into a bucket I brought with clean water, packed it in my car, and drove home.
Alright, I made it, and I'm a little worried about this axolotl's condition, because it didn't really seem like it was being kept in the best condition. You doing alright, little buddy? Let me just scoop you up, and we can get a closer look at this guy.
And unfortunately, my suspicions were correct, because when I took a closer look at the body of this baby axolotl, I noticed its front right hand was missing. If you look over here, this is what it's supposed to look like, but yeah, I guess this hand must have accidentally got cut off because of how fragile baby axolotls are.
Dang, that actually sucks. We gotta help this guy, and thankfully, I got just a plan.
You see, I've got these things that when we plop into water, they turn into tons of little bloodworms. These are some of the most nutritious and also delicious foods for a baby axolotl, so I sort of just made it rain bloodworms on this guy, which you can see he absolutely started to devour up. If you didn't know, axolotls are extremely amazing in that they are one of the only animals that have the ability to regenerate limbs when they lose them. And by eating these bloodworms, this guy will now have the nutrients to do that very same thing for his hand.
Yo, for $1, this thing might be my favorite pet. It's so cute. Oh my gosh.
And I would learn, apparently this baby axolotl was even cooler than I thought, and in order to see that, I got out this quite a bit larger tank, and I started to lay down the floor of his new home. Even though our axolotl is so small and just a baby, they grow at a rapid pace, so in only a few months, this whole tank will be getting used up. And for the decorations, literally, we're just gonna use this big piece of wood and a few aquatic plants I had laying around in my garage.
Yep, that's it. We're done. You see, baby axolotls have skin that can scrape super easily, and since ours is already missing a hand, I just wanted to keep ours super simple till he gets a bit bigger. But oh my gosh, he's so cute, and I think he's ready to go inside.
So I let this baby loose into his brand new home. Instantly, he loved it, and you can just see how much he was swimming around and checking out his new enclosure.
Yep, that's one thing about baby axolotls. They're just way more active than adult axolotls usually are. Wait, I have something fun I want to try. What if I put some worms near the axolotl's face? Am I able to make it follow the direction of the worms? Wait, it kind of is.
Yep, I kind of just thought it would be funny to make the axolotl follow my tweezers like it was a fishing lure, basically. And surprisingly, he actually followed it for quite a long time up this log, but eventually he got bored and swam away. But yeah, it was kind of fun to lure him around this tank in random directions, and every now and then I would let him have a big old bite of the worms because he was just so cute to watch eat.
Let me know in the comments what I should name this guy, and if I should make an update video once his hand is healed.
But remember, I'm still going to show what it's like to keep a $100,000 pet shark, along with so many other price points of fish, next up being $100 pet shrimp.
Yeah, you may be thinking, how does a bag of shrimp cost $100? Well, I don't just have one bag or two bags. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bags of shrimp, and we're going to be able to do some crazy time lapses since we have so many shrimp here.
Yeah, apparently keeping an insane amount of shrimp in the same tank is something lots of people into aquariums do because shrimp are some of the best cleaners of all time. And they'll just constantly explore around the tank, eating any dirt or algae that would make the water dirty. These ones in specific are called cherry shrimp because they have a red color in their body like a cherry. Yup, it's a pretty creative name if you ask me.
Now, before we get out a piece of steak to feed to these guys and record on a time lapse, let's work our way up the food scale and start with a shrimp pellets, which I bought these thinking they were shrimp food, but on here it says they're actually for fish. So I'm thinking maybe these are just made out of shrimp. They're not actually for shrimp, but I guess we can still try and see if they'll eat it. Let's just start by dropping in one of the pellets.
Now, immediately after dropping this single shrimp pellet in, one of the nearby shrimp basically pounced onto it. Dang, I guess these shrimp like eating shrimp because soon after, another one also came straight onto it. You can kind of see in the zoomed in footage how they use their tiny little mouths to break up this little pellet and eat it. But yeah, over the next couple minutes, this single pellet started to get swarmed by every single shrimp that saw it. Yeah, started to get pretty crowded, but that's what is so cool about having so many shrimp. They just absolutely decimate any piece of food you give them.
Anyways, to feed the shrimp bigger food sources, I've got a way bigger tank. So I think I'm gonna go get some supplies so we can build these guys a nice little home real quick.
So I drove to the store to start shopping. Since we got so many shrimp, I really wanted to spend a ton of time to choose the best decorations for these guys so they could have a beautiful home. And of course, that also meant I had to get some plants.
Okay, as you guys know, I usually get my aquatic plants here at Petco, but today I want to try something different because, oh my gosh, these gotta be getting more expensive. $12 for this, it's literally dead.
So instead, I drove across the town to an aquarium store I had never been to. They of course had tons of cool stuff like this arowana, frogs, and even this massive pleco. But of course, they also had exactly what I was looking for.
Ooh, yeah, this is actually perfect. And it's actually a good deal. I mean, $8 for that big plant in the back.
So yeah, I asked the store employees to bag me up some, and I brought all my supplies home. Since the tank isn't insanely large, it was quite easy to start laying everything down. We start with the aqua soil, which gives the nutrients to the plants, and we cover it in a layer of sand so it won't make the water dirty. Finally, I added around some of the decorations I bought to make this place stand out a bit.
Favorite decoration I bought was a pineapple from SpongeBob, but I unfortunately dropped it as I was getting it out my car, so yeah, it's kind of just in a bunch of pieces now. But I think I can still fit that in there, just like that. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty cool. And it's SpongeBob, it's under the water, makes sense.
Then I added in all those plants I had just bought and filled the thing with water.
All right, there we go. Technically, this water filter at the back isn't needed since the shrimps kind of clean the water themselves, but it's still recommended, which is why I have it. But oh, we do got to get to this bad boy inside. It's a light up air stone, which if you don't know what an air stone is, it's this amazing contraption that makes bubbles in the water, and this one lights up, so it's extra special. Oh man, that's actually fire. I'm gonna have to get more of these, I'm not gonna lie.
Anyways, this tank is now finished and ready for all of our little shrimps to go inside. Immediately, you can just see how there is constant movement going on because of the sheer amount of shrimp. Every single little location in the tank had its own little shrimp life being lived.
Now you'll see I left this little open area right here. Well, that's for us to test our next 3 food sources, and our next food source is a carrot. So yeah, they're not just gonna eat a raw carrot. It's too hard for their mouths. They can't chew it up. Instead, we gotta soften up the carrot in some boiling water, just like this. And yeah, just let it cook for a couple minutes. And when the carrots are done cooking, we can bring them back to the shrimp.
So I cut off a piece and plopped it straight into the tank. Now this time it was completely different than that shrimp pellet because while a couple of the shrimp sort of checked out the carrot a little bit, ultimately none of them really stayed for long enough to eat it. Come on guys, do you not like vegetables or something?
Oh well, I guess they don't like carrots. But before we try the steak, I want to try one more vegetable. Let's do spinach.
Now with this, I also had to boil it quickly, and then I put it in the water as well. And yeah guys, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed by the spinach too, because even though this is so nutritious and Google said the shrimp would eat it, well, they never ate it at all.
Bro, come on, I'm just convinced shrimp don't like eating vegetables at all. Yeah, let's get this trash out of here. And let's move on to our final food source, a entire steak. Well, I shouldn't say the entire steak because that would make the water pretty dirty. So I'm just gonna cut off a little piece just like that, and well, I'm just gonna put this in.
So I put the steak in, and thankfully this time we at least got a bit of action, because after about 10 minutes you could tell they certainly weren't swarming it, but there was the occasional shrimp going on to the piece of meat, and it was kind of cool because you could see their microscopic little mouths taking tiny little bites out of the meat. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, for being in here for 2 hours, it was a bit disappointing that they didn't eat this more. I guess with shrimp, you just want to stick to the boring foods like pellets. But remember guys, as you get more expensive, the pet fish get harder to feed and crazier. And well, for the next price point, we've got a $1,000 saltwater coral tank.
Yup, if you didn't know, coral saltwater tanks are some of the most exotic tanks you can get. But the thing is, they get extremely expensive extremely fast. That's why instead, I'm gonna buy this already set up coral tank for $200, and then I can use the rest of the budget to fill it up with way more crazy corals. And dang, look at this video the seller sent me. It already has so much fish and stuff in it. Let's go see if this is legit.
So yeah, I drove out to the cellar and got the tank into my car, although there was definitely something off about it.
As you can see, it's quite a bit dirty, a lot dirtier than it was listed on Facebook. And I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be fish inside, but I'm not seeing anything. We gotta get this home ASAP.
So I quickly drove home and got it out at my house.
Alright guys, I just got this back to my setup, and look at this. There's actually a fish inside. Yo, there's a clownfish. Do you see that? Yeah, I guess guess you can't really see it because it's so dirty. But yeah, let me set up all this stuff.
So yeah, I first added in the extra water I had taken out to transport it. Then I put in the heater, a wave maker, a water filter, and of course the lights. And then I let it sit for a couple hours to clear up. And oh my gosh, the whole tank came alive very quickly. You could see the clownfish swimming around next to the anemone, the little shrimp constantly moving around everywhere, and there was even a literal sea urchin. I had no clue this was all going to be included in the tank.
But this place would look way crazier if it had tons of rare glowing corals and stuff. So yeah, we definitely got to go buy some of those.
So I drove back out to the aquarium store where I'd bought those plants from earlier and found out they also had a massive coral section.
Yo, this is sick how some of these corals glow. And look, that clownfish is checking that coral out. But also, bro, $400 for a single piece of coral, that's kind of crazy.
If you didn't know, corals literally have thousands of tiny little animals called polyps that live inside of them. And in order to see them come out, I bought this big bag of coral and brought it home.
Now, corals can be extremely delicate, so it's a good thing we already got this set up tank, otherwise our corals would probably die. But because this is set up, it's as simple as just dumping the water from the bags out and putting all the corals I bought inside.
Then over the next hour, I slowly added water from our current tank into this temporary tray. Yeah, a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it because I started to add these corals around the tank in the places I thought would look best, and I left my camera recording so we could see them come alive. The first one I noticed movement from was this top one that we could see the little tentacles of the polyp animals on here starting to come out. And this green one also started to liven up pretty fast as well. The polyps on these corals use all these little tentacle things to eat up food, which I'll show very soon.
Yo, look at these corals. They're looking sick. The only ones that haven't popped out are these two at the bottom. So I guess I'll just leave them be. And in the meantime, let's feed this tank so we can figure out how alive everything in here actually is.
The fish in tanks like this love stuff called brine shrimp. Basically, you pop one of these frozen cubes in a cup of water and they completely start to thaw out into tons of tiny shrimp that you could put into the tank. Instantly, you could see how all the fish in here, like this blue damselfish, started to gulp up the food. The clownfish was also eating some of it while sticking near this anemone that had come with the tank when I bought it. If you don't know what an anemone is, well, it's actually an animal. And they have thousands of microscopic needles on their tentacles to sting and stay safe from fish. And also, they're able to move around through tanks on their own somehow. But for some reason, clownfish evolved to be immune to the stinging, so they just constantly stay near anemones so no other animals will disturb them. But interestingly, there's also these coral shrimp in here that'll eat the brine shrimp with their tiny little claws, and there's other animals which you don't need to feed, like these cool sea snails which go along the glass eating algae, and these sea urchins which do the same. Pretty cool.
Finally, we can't forget to feed the corals with this stuff, and it's pretty cool to watch. Let me show you.
Yeah, you can kind of just use this thing as a spray bottle under the water to shoot food at the corals. You can see how the little tentacles of the polyps react to the tasty food and close up a bit. The green one was especially cool to watch, along with this smaller green one where you could really see the little tentacle arms grabbing the food and closing it up to consume it. Dang, the ocean is actually so cool.
Alright, I just got this set up in my kitchen, and stuff like the anemone is still opening up. But honestly, for $1,000, it's so cool seeing all the different life in here. I'm gonna rate this thing an 8 out of 10.
But there's one type of aquatic pet that's a lot cooler than everything I've showed so far. It's time to show you guys what it's like to have a literal pet shark.
Yes, sir. Now, I could go buy some sort of small baby shark species online and build a small little tank, but that would be boring. I want to see a big, fierce shark.
So I hopped on a plane and flew across the country to this very fish store called Aquatics and Exotics. When I walked inside, I was immediately greeted by some absolutely insane tanks. This one had massive freshwater stingrays. This one had a super cool pig-nosed turtle that had a nose that looks like a pig. But right here at the back of the store is where the insanely massive tank that is filled to the brim with sharks is located.
Yo, these sharks are crazy.
Yup, this tank has 17,000 gallons of water because it contains not only this nurse shark, which like to spend most of their time chilling at the bottom of the tank, but also these two super fierce black tip reef sharks, which are known to be some of the most aggressive sharks in the world. And the craziest thing is how you feed them when they're your pets. So I got introduced to a store employee named Sky so I could show you just that.
You are kind of the one in charge of taking care of all these sharks, right?
Yep, 2 black tips and a nurse shark in here.
Dang, that is so cool. I'm on on the mission to kind of find the craziest pet you can keep. Would you say keeping sharks is kind of crazy? Like, is that kind of cool?
It's definitely one up there. Not many people can say they have real sharks in their house.
For sure. But why do you have to have a tank that is so massive for these sharks?
Specifically for the black tips, they are a shark that in the wild requires to be in constant motion to get oxygen through their gills.
Yup, the blacktip reef sharks in specific literally need to constantly be moving in order to get water and therefore oxygen flowing through their gills.
So are these blacktip sharks fully grown?
No, they're still actually young males.
Wow, so they're gonna get a lot bigger than this?
Quite, at least twice
Oh my
the
gosh.
size.
Nah, these sharks are still gonna get twice as big. I can't even imagine what they're gonna eat when they get bigger.
So